Hello everyone, welcome back. I am Kris. This is Random Morbid Facts Compilation Twisted Tales from History Part 39. First one I've done, Morbid Facts Part 452. The first one I've done, but I've seen these videos before. I'm sure you recognize his face. He's got a very distinct voice. Morbid Facts. If you haven't seen it, it's not great. This chair is it is what it is now. If you can click on that thumbs up, bare minimum, please. Subscribe to the channel, and if you want to help, click on that thanks button, donate to the channel, keep it running. All right, let's do this.
Morbid Facts, Part 452. After just one date with him in 2018, Arizona woman Jacqueline Adis allegedly sent a man over 159,000 texts over a 10-month span. Some of the texts were incredibly disturbing threats like, "I'd make sushi out of your kidneys and chopsticks out of your hand bones. I'd wear your fascia in the top of your skull and your hands and feet." Adis was later arrested for trespassing inside the man's home while he was out of the country, but she was later declared mentally incompetent to stand trial and the charges were dropped.
I'm sorry. If that was a man who did that, he would already have been in jail. And if it came out that he couldn't stand trial because he wasn't competent, he wouldn't have been set free. What are we doing? No, she doesn't deserve to be free. What is happening?
The 2,000-year-old
Society caters too much and punishes others, and you know exactly what I'm talking about.
skull of Mary Magdalene on display at St. Maximin Basilica in France. It's considered to be one of the most precious relics in all of Maximin dropped. This is the 2,000-year-old skull of Mary Magdalene on display at St. Maximin Basilica in France. It's considered to be one of the most precious relics in all of Christendom. In 2008,
Is that the real skull, or is that just a skull? Clearly they're not going to let you carbon date it.
19-year-old Brandon Swanson drove his car into a ditch while driving home from a party. He called his parents and told them he was fine, but wasn't sure exactly where he was. Nearly 50 minutes into the call, he suddenly yelled, "Oh shit," and then went silent. He's never been seen nor heard from again. Morbid Facts, Part 456. The 1985 film Mask is based on the true story of Rocky Dennis, an American boy with an extremely rare bone disorder. It causes bone to build up excessively in the skull, resulting in compression of the brain. Doctors initially told him he would die before his 7th birthday, but Rocky ended up living to the age of 16. After being told he would die if he didn't change his habits, a morbidly obese Scottish man went an entire year without eating any food. The 450-pound 27-year-old only consumed multivitamins and potassium tablets for 382 days, only going number 2 once every 40 to 50 days. He set a record for the longest fast ever recorded and ended up losing 275 pounds. French chemist Antoine Lavoisier wanted to perform one last experiment before he was executed in 1792. He told his colleague he would try to blink as long as possible after being beheaded by a guillotine. Some sources say he continued to blink for up to 10 seconds afterwards. Morbidly Wholesome, Part 23. Months before his sudden death, Mythbuster Grant Imahara built a fully animatronic Baby Yoda. After spending 3 months of his personal time designing and programming the robot, he intended on bringing it to hospitals to cheer up sick children. William Kyle Carpenter threw himself in front of a grenade in Afghanistan to shield his best friend. He's the youngest living recipient of the Medal of Honor and has progressed incredibly well in his recovery. This bride's father died 10 years ago and his heart was donated. The man who received the transplant ended up walking her down the aisle. In 2010, Gary Richmond was senselessly beaten into a coma and barely made it through emergency surgery. He woke up with no memory of his wife of 20 years but ended up falling in love with her all over again. Morbidly Wholesome, Part 22. After Heath Ledger died while filming The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, Johnny Depp, Jude Law, and Colin Farrell all agreed to star in the film so that it could be completed. Afterwards, they all donated their salaries to Heath Ledger's 4-year-old daughter. After the death of his wife, a man from Argentina planted this guitar-shaped forest so that she could see it from heaven. In 1986, a young Indian flight attendant named Nirja Banat was on a plane when it was hijacked. The terrorists were targeting Americans, so she hid the passports of all 44 Americans on board. Instead of saving herself, she helped the passengers escape and died while shielding 3 children from a hail of gunfire. One of the children on board is now a captain for a major airline and says that Banat was his #1 inspiration. Morbid Facts, Part...
She should be known more. Like, that's an amazing story.
458. Amanda Eller was lost for 17 days in the Maui wilderness after a 3-mile hike turned into a full-on nightmare. She set out on foot without a phone, food, or water since she only planned to be out for a short adventure. But after veering off the trail, she wasn't able to find her way back. The 35-year-old later managed to survive a flash flood with a broken leg and suffered many hallucinations throughout the ordeal. She said she kept hearing voices that were telling her what to do if she wanted to survive. Amanda was eventually spotted by a helicopter pilot who turned a different way that nobody would normally search on a whim. In 2022, an Irish woman was hospitalized with extreme stomach pain and had to have her appendix removed after years of holding in farts around her boyfriend. Constance Fisher was a paranoid schizophrenic who murdered her 3 children in 1954 to save them from evil. She spent several years in a mental asylum before being released, only to kill 3 more of her children in 1966. Morbidly Wholesome, Part 21. A woman battling breast cancer married the love of her life just 18 hours before passing away. The couple had a ceremony at a hospital chapel, and her final moments were nothing short of beautiful. In 1996, Bear Grylls broke his back after falling 16,000 feet due to a torn parachute. Doctors said he would never walk again, but 2 years later he climbed Mount Everest. In 2009, Barry Delaney honored a lifelong pact he made with his best friend who was a British soldier. They agreed that whoever died first, the other had to wear a dress to their funeral. In 1986, a 5-year-old boy fell into a gorilla enclosure and lost consciousness. But to everyone's surprise, a male gorilla named Jumbo stood between the boy and the other gorillas in a protective gesture. He made sure the boy was okay and even rubbed his back. This incident helped create a positive public perception of gorillas. Morbid Facts, Part 459. In 2014, author Richard Britton traveled 500 miles to find a teenage girl who left him a bad review on his recent book, then smashed a wine bottle over her head, sending her to the hospital where she nearly died. Richard was jailed for 30 months following the vicious attack. In 1971, 46-year-old New Jersey...
I'm sorry. Why do you have Murr from Impractical Jokers over here? That's not this guy. Okay.
For 30 months following the vicious attack. In 1971, 46-year-old New Jersey accountant John List lost his job at a bank and couldn't stand to tell his family. After a failed job search, List worried that his family would turn away from God due to a lack of stability and therefore miss out on heaven. So he felt he was left with no choice but to murder his entire family and disappear forever. He killed his wife, mother, and 3 children by gunshot before vanishing for the next 18 years. List had planned out the murders so meticulously that nearly a month had passed before anyone suspected that something was wrong. He assumed a new identity in Denver, remarried, and evaded capture for nearly 2 decades, until a neighbor finally recognized him after seeing him on America's Most Wanted.
So he sent his family to heaven, and he's going to go the opposite way. Good job, stupid.
Morbidly Wholesome, Part 20. In 2014, an Australian vet performed a 45-minute surgery on a goldfish named George. His owners were quite attached to him, so they paid to have a tumor removed from his head. After Basma Hamid was badly burned as a child, she eventually tattooed her own face to cover her scars. Now she helps other burn victims by tattooing their scars with pigments that match their skin color. A 10-year-old boy who was dying from cancer wanted to be buried in a casket made of Legos. Luckily, a local funeral home was able to make it happen using 26,000 Lego bricks. A man who suffered multiple strokes tried to teach his cat how to dial 911. Unsure if the training stuck, the man eventually fell from his wheelchair during a seizure. Police received a silent call from the house and arrived to find the man incapacitated with no one around except his cat. Morbid Facts, Part 460. A 23-year-old college student from Taiwan was forced to have both of his legs amputated after suffering severe frostbite that his doctor couldn't believe was real. He claimed it was the result of being stuck outside after a bad motorcycle accident, but the truth was he'd stuck his legs in dry ice for more than 10 hours while trying to pull off a massive insurance fraud scheme. His friend and accomplice tied him to the chair, so he had no choice but to endure the excruciating ice burns. Instead of the $1.7 million payout they were hoping for, both of the young men were sent to prison for insurance fraud. This photo of Samantha
And he lost both of his legs, or feet. Good job.
Koenig was taken by serial killer Israel Keyes to convince the victim's family that she was still alive, so that he could demand $30,000 in ransom from them for her safe return. But in reality, Koenig had already been dead for several weeks, and Keyes had sewn her eyes open using fishing line. The family paid some of the ransom before the killer dumped Samantha's body in a lake and never contacted them again.
Yeah. Israel Keyes' story. He was just a serial killing scumbag. I think he's dead. I could be thinking about somebody else now. Now I have to check. You're going to check with me. We're all going to check together. Is Israel Keyes dead? Yeah, Israel Keyes died December 2nd, 2012, aged 34 years. It's suicide. Okay. Sorry, that's just one of those things that pops into your mind and you're like, I have to check this. So, I hope you enjoyed. This is Morbid. I would like to do some more, but we'll see how that goes. But until next time, have a good day, have a good night.